Hi, I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of ArtByRow.com, where I help hobby artists grow by teaching them how to focus on the process rather than the outcome. I specialize in developing creativity, creating more art in less time, and using graffiti art to generate ideas instead of always wondering what you should be working on. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, subscribe so you get notified whenever new videos get uploaded. Now let's head on over to the art studio and do some drawings. We're going to work on today's tutorial together. Let's head on over. Hey, today we're going to draw some penguins, or a penguin rather. And I'm going to show you one way to do a penguin drawing. And of course there's a lot of different ways that you can do them. But I'm going to show you one way to draw this really cute little penguin I like drawing. And I encourage you to experiment a little bit, try some different things. I'm going to angle this a little bit different and see if I can control those shadows a little bit better. Okay, so what we want to do is start out with some basic shapes. And I'm doing this on an artist trading card. I like doing my drawings on artist trading cards because they store really nicely. I can trade them if I want to. They save me a lot of time. So you can draw this on whatever it is you prefer, if you want to do it in a sketchbook or whatever you want to do it on. And I make my artist trading cards out of a fairly heavy cardstock. I try to find the heaviest weight cardstock I can find, which sometimes I can find some pretty heavy cardstock and sometimes I can't. So I just do the best I can in getting some heavy cardstock. That's one of the few rules that there are with artist trading cards, is you want them to be sturdy. So I'm just going to rough in just some simple shapes to get the placement where I want it to be. So this is going to be where his body is. I'm going to do one of his little flippers up in the air this way, one coming down that way, and I am not worrying at all if everything doesn't fit completely within the area that I'm drawing on. It's not going to hurt anything if his fins go off the edge of the paper. I want to fill up as much of my drawing area as I can. And the focal point is going to be his face and his body, not the ends of his fins. So not too concerned with that. So we have a circle for the head. I put a line of symmetry in here. Kind of a square rectangle shape for his body. Again, a line of symmetry. That just helps us keep things kind of even. Keep track of where the center is. And if you want to put a hat on him, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and rough that in now, so we can see where the eyes are going to go, so his eyes don't get covered up with his hat if we don't want it to. So the next thing I'm going to do is draw a nose, or his beak rather, and I'm just going to make a triangle shape. And then I want to draw in these areas where the penguins have the black that come down in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and draw that in again to help position the eyes where I feel like the eyes should go. And this is going to be the bottom part of his eyes, like a little indication of like maybe a cheek. So it looks like he's got smiling eyes. Because I want this penguin to be a cute penguin. So there's things you can do to make your characters look a little cuter, or the opposite if you want to make him look angry or mean or whatever you might want to do. So one of the things is, if you make the eyes bigger and if you keep everything rounded off, it's going to help it look a little bit cuter. If you make the eyes smaller with sharp edges, with points, it will make your drawings look a little a little angry, a little more fierce. Same thing with the size of the eyes. If you make the eyes small, it's not going to look as cutesy. And if you make the eyes nice and big, it makes that little bit of a cute effect to it. So I'm just drawing in where his hat is. I have his beak. The eyes are drawn in. And again, I'm not too worried about the hat going off the edge of the paper. If that bothers you, then make sure you tighten everything up and fit it in there. I'm going to draw a scarf on this guy too. So I'm going to have it curving around up by his face. Draw this line curving around so it looks like it's wrapping around his neck. And I'm going to draw this coming out a little bit. You want to leave a little bit of a gap there. And you want to put some curves and some wrinkles in here. I'm not going super detailed with the scarf. I'm going to make this edge come out a little bit further. There we go. So you want to put some little wrinkles in here. You don't want it to just all be straight across. So now I want to make his body, and I'm just going to curve it a little bit here and down here, and then just have it come around at the bottom. And then I'm going to make a couple curved lines for where his belly is going to be. And then for the fins, I'm going to curve that line a little bit because just to make it look a little bit more interesting. And you can clean up your lines as you go and get rid of those sketch lines if you want. Or you can leave them, it doesn't really matter. If they interfere with your drawing, if you feel like it makes it harder to see where you're going and what you're doing, then clean them up and erase them as you go. If they don't bother you, if they're not making it harder to see what's going on, then you can just leave them and clean them up later. After we add our outline, we're going to clean them up. So now I'm just going to make some little pointed toes on here on his fins, his feet, little feet area. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of different ways that you can draw these. You can change them up. You could do the same basic drawing and change it up, make it a little bit different every time you draw it if you wanted to. So now I'm going to add in these little ends of the scarf. I'm just going to put one, the other one's back behind them somewhere we can't see it. I don't want to clutter things up too much. And of course, if you wanted, you could put stripes on it. You could decorate his hat. There's a lot of different things you could do with him if you wanted to. But that's basically it for the sketch. And like I said, if it bothers you that certain elements run off the edge of the paper, then you would want to make sure when you do that initial rough sketch with the shapes that you tighten everything up and make sure it fits in. So that's it for the sketch. The next thing we're going to do is to add an outline. So I'm going to use this black Sharpie pen. I typically kind of try to stay away from Sharpie markers, but I do like these pens for outlining. And with my style of art that I create, currently anyway, I like adding a black outline to my drawings. If your style is different, or if you don't really have a style yet, if you're still working on developing that, and you don't like the black outline, then play around a little bit. Try different things to discover what it is you do like and what you don't like. And if you like something or don't like something, that's perfectly fine. That's your own style. Don't let anybody tell you you should be doing things differently. If you like something or don't like something, that's what makes everybody's style a little bit different and unique. So you need to just play around, experiment, make some different types of drawings. And that's what I really like about doing the artist trading cards. There's many reasons I like doing my art on the artist trading cards, but one of the big reasons is that because they're quicker to finish, it really gives you a lot of freedom to experiment and try different things and not feel so much like you're wasting your time. I'm going to add this black area. We have like this little mask that comes around on his head. But as I was saying, so when you're doing the artist trading cards, it really gives you a lot of freedom to experiment and try different things and play around. And you're not spending hours and hours on your artwork on one single piece if you're using artist trading cards, because they really only take, like, to finish this, if I wasn't explaining it as I was drawing, it would maybe only take me 20 minutes or a half hour to finish a drawing if I'm not being distracted and this is the only thing I'm doing is just working on my drawing. I can finish an entire card with color and everything in probably about a half hour. So if I wanted to play around and experiment, I wouldn't feel so worried about what if I mess up, what if I try something and if I don't like it and it gets ruined. I think a lot of times as artists we're afraid to try different things because we don't want to ruin a drawing that we're working on. And I know in the past I've had plenty of drawings or works of art that I literally had spent hours on, and then you get to a point where you're not exactly sure how to proceed with it, and maybe you don't. I've had plenty of them that, like, oh, I've come this far with it, I've spent so many hours working on it, I like how it looks right now, but I don't really know what to do next. And then you just kind of abandon it because you don't know what to do and you're so afraid that, well, what if I mess it up? What if I ruin it? But when you're doing them with the artist trading cards, you don't have to worry as much. Like if I did something, if I tried something new with this and I didn't like the way it turned out, it really wouldn't be a huge deal. So I'm just going to take this eraser and clean up my pencil lines. And then we're going to add some color. And you can fill in the black area with the pen if you want. Like you could fill in all the areas that would be black, or you can use a black marker. The difference between using the black marker and the black pen is that you will get, like for outlining, you'll get a much crisper outline with the black pen than you will with the black marker. The markers will bleed into the paper a little bit more, where the pens don't. So I like doing my outline with the pen. Even if I'm doing a heavy outline, I will still use that black pen and just keep going over it and make it thicker, because the pen doesn't bleed into the paper. So if you use something like this to make a nice thick outline on your drawings, your outlines will look kind of fuzzy because the marker, the ink will bleed and you'll have a little bit of a fuzzy edge to it. It's not real bad, but it's noticeable. So I like doing the black pen outline, and then if I have big areas, I can fill them in with the black marker instead of trying to fill it in the whole way with the pen, because you'd go through your pens pretty quickly if you are filling in all the big areas with it. So I'm just going to go through, start filling in. Just coming up along the edge. And I'm going to color this with markers, what little bit of color it's going to have on there. I like using markers. I use alcohol markers because you can blend the colors together. You can overlap them or lay them on top of each other. You can make nice transitions of colors and nice, like, you can blend them. You can make them fade out or fade from one color to another. So there's the black area. Sometimes if you go out of the outline, you can just go back in with your pen and clean it up a little bit. Get rid of some of these eraser shavings. So now I'm going to grab some markers. So I'm going to pause the video for just a minute, go grab some colors I want to use, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, so I got my markers that I want to use. And what I usually do is I'll use these scrap papers that are left over from when I cut out my artist trading cards. And I'll use that to see which colors will blend good together. So, and some of them I already know which ones I like using because I've used them in the past, so I know they'll blend good together. So the way I put my markers down is I like to put the lighter color down first, and then put the darker color down, and then I'll go back with the lighter color and blend them together. And you don't have to worry about the markers transferring to other markers. That doesn't happen. So if you use a light marker and a dark marker together, like this orange is not going to transfer on the yellow. Or if I were to use like black and then go back over it with yellow, it's not going to pick up the marker. You don't have to worry about that. And I usually like to use at least 2 colors in each section. And you want to work section to section if you want to blend your markers together, because you want the alcohol to be wet. If the alcohol evaporates, they're not going to blend as smoothly together. And you could always go back over again and darken up with the same marker. It'll darken it up. As you layer them, it's going to change how the color looks. So keep that in mind. If you really like how something looks and you think you're going to go in and just touch it up real quick, when you do that, it will change the way that your colors look. Every layer that you put over top is going to darken it up a little bit. So you can darken it up by adding additional layers with the same marker, or you can darken up your colors by using a completely different marker, and then if you want, you can blend them together. By using more than one marker, it makes the drawings look less flat. I think it makes them look a little bit more interesting. But again, it's all, everything you do with your artwork is really just personal preference. And in reality, we don't want everybody doing things exactly the same, because if we did, that would be super boring. So you want to have your own style and your own look to your drawings, and you do that by experimenting and trying different things. And when you look at someone else's art, you should be identifying what you like about it and what you don't like about it. And that's going to help you develop your style. So you could look at another artist's work and try to kind of copy their style a little bit, some specific elements from their style, and incorporate that into your own artwork and kind of play around with it a little bit. And even if you completely try to mimic somebody else's style, it's not going to be the same, because the way you do things is going to be different from the way somebody else does things. And it's perfectly okay to take inspiration from somebody else's style, or to even try to duplicate one of their pieces of art for the purpose of developing your skills and your style and practicing. They've been doing it since the beginning of time. That's always been a tradition of learning, is to use other artists as a teaching method. Their work, looking at their work and duplicating it. What's not when it gets to be not okay is when you copy somebody's work of art and then try to pass it off as your own original work of art. That's where you get into problems with it not being okay. You never want to copy somebody else's work and try to pass it off as your own. And it would not be okay to copy somebody's work and then try to sell it. But for the purpose of developing your style and trying some different things out, you can look at other people's artwork and I forgot to color that in. You can look at other people's artwork and take bits and pieces of their style from it and put it into your own artwork. But what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a little bit from this artist, a little bit from that artist. And at the end of the day, yours is not going to be the same as anybody else's, because you're going to do it different, and you're going to have different pieces from different artists. So my hopes is that if you're watching this video, that you watch it, maybe you're following along, doing your own artwork. And then what I like to do is series of drawings. I usually try to do 7. So if I'm doing penguins, I'll do 7 penguins and try different things with each one. And you could even draw the same basic design, and then just kind of change it up a little bit as you go and try some different things, experiment a little bit, see where it takes you. You don't necessarily have to do a black outline. You could do his beak different. You could draw the feet different. There's a lot of different ways that you can change it and make it your own unique drawing. So really all I'm trying to do is give you a place to start And then hopefully you take it from there and try your own things out. So that's pretty much it for the drawing itself. I do need to finish it up by adding an outline. And then if you trade artist trading cards, what you would do is put it online. There's artist trading card groups. So eventually what I'll do is I will post this in the artist trading group, probably along with some other drawings, or maybe I might, like I said, I'd like to do a series of drawings. So maybe I'll do a series of penguin drawings and then put them in the artist trading card group and see if anybody's interested. And the way it works is you'll have people will see a card that you made and they want it for their collection. And then they send you pictures of the cards that they have available. And then you send your card to them in the mail and they send their card to you. And then you add it to your collection of artist trading cards. And it's a lot of fun. And I personally I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I have tons of artist trading cards from people all over the world. And I have some really, really cool cards, some really unique cards. So if you're into that sort of thing, it's a lot of fun. Plus, the other benefit is you don't have tons of artwork just stacked up, sitting all over the place. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up with the background and add some color to the hearts. I got to grab some more markers. So I'm going to finish this up and then I will be right back to show you what it looks like when it's done. All right, so I added some purple to the background, and I should probably mention, just in case anybody's wondering, you can mix and match different brands for your markers. So I have some Bic markers, I have some Prismacolor, I do have a few Sharpies that I'm still using until they run out. I have some of these touch markers which I really like. You don't have to stick with one brand of marker. As long as they are all alcohol-based markers, you can mix them and it doesn't matter. They'll all blend together. So the last thing I like doing with my artwork is to add some white highlights with a white Jelly Roll pen. And mostly I do it because it breaks up the big chunks of color. I don't like having these big areas of just solid color. I prefer going in with the white and just breaking it up a little bit, add some highlights to it. Just for some little bit of variation and contrast. Again, very much a personal preference. If you don't like the way adding the white looks, then don't add white to yours. All of these things, everything that you do is developing your style and whatever your personal preferences are. That's where your style is going to come in. And I could maybe add some snowflakes in the background if I wanted to. This works really well for that. And if you let the markers dry, let the alcohol from the markers evaporate before adding the white, it's going to show up a little bit better. If the marker's still wet, then it's going to soak into the paper a little bit more, which that's not a huge deal. If you have that happen, you can just go back over it again and it'll make it
brighten it up a little bit. And the alcohol doesn't take a really long time to evaporate, but if you're just cruising along and doing your drawings and you're trying to put the white on there and you notice that your white's kind of disappearing a little bit, it's probably because the marker's not quite dry enough yet. But it's not, like I said, it won't hurt anything. Just go back over top of it again. So that's it. Let me move that out of the way. That one is done and ready for trade if I choose to trade it, or I can put it in my portfolio. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you feel inspired to try some of your own penguins. Happy creating!
So how did you do? Hopefully you followed along with the tutorial and worked on your own artwork. If you enjoyed this and you want to get notified of other lessons that are coming up in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and you'll get notified whenever something new gets uploaded. Have a good day and happy creating!